So these three games that's going to be happening on Wednesday is technically going to be the last Phase 1 game that we are going to have. And the reason why I say technically is because technically Friday, the game between Seattle versus LAFC is the last Phase 1 game if you want to count makeup game for Phase 1. But we do have two games that is going to be makeup on Wednesday. And then we also have the last all-Canadian clash between the Vancouver Whitecaps versus the Montreal Impact in this game. But as we head into this weekend, that's when Phase 2 is going to start, and that's when madness is going to be resuming once again, and I cannot wait until I'm going to have one day where I have to watch 9 games at a time because of how busy the schedule is going to be. But before that, let's talk about these 3 games, and I'm not going to do timestamp on this because this is going to be a relatively short preview. The first one is the first of 2 makeup games from Phase 1 between FC Dallas versus the Colorado Rapids. Dallas currently coming into this game with a 3-4-2 record, while the Rapids currently coming into this game with a 3-4-3 record. I forgot to put the kickoff time for all 3 of these games, but this game kicks off at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, but 7:30 p.m. local time. Dallas, of course, won 2-1 against Houston at home, while Colorado won 5-0 against RSL with what, in my opinion, is the most surprising result of the year. And what is even more surprising about this result is that this is actually the first time that Colorado have been able to beat RSL away for the first time since 2007. So it's been 13 years since the Rapids were able to go to Rio Tinto Stadium to get a win. That's how unexpected that result, of course, is. But obviously coming into this game, since both of these teams are coming off with big derby win, the question is going to be who is going to ride that momentum after that big derby win, and who exactly is going to have a letdown. And that I really think, if I was going to guess who potentially will ride the momentum and who have the letdown, the team that potentially could ride the momentum could be the Rapids after they got that big win against RSL and did something that no Rapids team have done since 2007, which is get a result against RSL away. But they are also going to be the team that I'm going to choose as the one that could have a big letdown, since if that was such an emotional win for them, are they going to have a letdown against an FC Dallas team that you can clearly see that this team has woke up after their slow start to restart the season, and that Luchi Gonzalez has started to finally get this team playing the way that what FC Dallas is going to look like this season. So with that being said, I am going to say Dallas is going to win this. I think they've been very good in the last couple of games, and especially there at home. Usually they are a team that is very good at home, and for the Rapids, since it is a short rest and that they have to deal with the hot Texas sun, yeah, that's going to be really tough coming into this game. And as I said, especially with the way that they come off of this big victory, we have already seen teams, when they get a big victory in the previous game, the very next game they could have a huge letdown because of the fact that they got caught in terms of being so emotionally happy about the result that they got last time. But moving on, in terms of the next match, is the last all-Canadian clash in Phase 1 and really this season alone between the Vancouver Whitecaps versus the Montreal Impact. The Whitecaps are coming into this game with a 3-0-7 record, while the Montreal Impact currently coming into this game with a 5-1-4 record. And this game is going to be kicking off at 9:30 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 p.m. Pacific time. Now, throughout all these Canadian clash, I haven't really mentioned about the Canadian Championship scenario, and I bet that all 3 of these Canadian team fans that is watching my preview and review, they're probably upset the fact that I haven't mentioned it. And I do apologize the fact that I haven't kind of mentioned it, but I will kind of mention in this game as the fact that there is definitely a lot at stake in terms of the Canadian Championship. And this season, for those that are wondering how the Canadian Championship is going to look, well, basically there's going to be 2 teams in the final. One of them is going to be the top team that is coming from the CPL, and that they're playing their island game during that point. While the other team that's going to be representing in MLS is going to be the team that finished first place out of this all-Canadian clash in phase 1 of the schedule. So right now, Toronto, of course, are currently in first place of the standings in terms of representing the team in the Canadian Championship, but Montreal is right behind them, and in some way Montreal kind of control their own destiny coming into this game, because if they can get a win in this game, no matter what the score is going to be, they will advance to the Canadian Championship final, whereas the Vancouver Whitecaps, they are eliminated in the Canadian Championship after that loss against Montreal in the last game, but they can definitely play some spoiler, and I'm pretty sure coming into this game, Toronto fans are going to be really rooting for Vancouver in this one, because if the Whitecaps can get a win or a draw against the Impact, then TFC will move on in terms of the Canadian Championship. So yeah, there is definitely a lot at stake in this game, but I'm going to go with Montreal as the favorite in this. And as long as if they can, of course, do exactly what they did last time, I think they should be able to move on. Obviously, you know, when you have these kind of game when teams face each other in such a short amount of period, you know, it's going to be much tougher now for the team that, of course, won the previous matchup to expect to win again in a quick succession. But obviously, I think when you look at how both of these teams, and especially how that last game went, I think Montreal is going to be once again favored in this one. Although I expect the Whitecaps to be a little bit more competitive, and that I'm not quite sure if this is going to be as crazy as what we saw back on Sunday when both of these teams play in a 6-goal thriller, and we also had 2 red cards that happened in that game. But moving on into the last game of this preview is going to be the first of 2 games that both of these teams is going to be played from tomorrow and also on Saturday, and that of course is the San Jose Earthquakes versus the Portland Timbers, and both of those 2-game mini-series is going to be at the Quake Stadium. The Quakes are coming into this game with a 2-4-4 record, while the Timbers currently coming into this game with a 4-2-4 record. Originally, this game was scheduled at 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Pacific, but the last I checked, they actually changed the schedule and actually decided to push the kickoff an hour earlier into this game. It's going to be kicking off at 9:30 p.m. Eastern and 6:30 p.m. Pacific. So both of these games is going to be kicking off at the same time, and at least I think that's kind of good, the fact that that is the case, because at least I can of course do the review a little bit earlier, and they'll have to start doing the review at around 9:30 my time. Now the Quakes, of course, they got a 0-0 draw against the LA Galaxy, but if you ask any Quakes fan, including myself, that feels like a win for the Quakes. I mean, especially after suffering the worst loss in franchise history against the Seattle Sounders, and a team that just gave up 7 goals a couple of days before. A 0-0 draw and a defense that actually kept their first clean sheet since August of last year is definitely a little bit of a surprise, but it's definitely gives a little bit more confidence to this team. Now, Portland, of course, are coming off with a 4-2 loss against LAFC away, but this was a Timbers team that was very short-handed, and obviously they won't not have Blanco for this game or for the rest of the season, but the good news is Diego Chara will be back in this game, and I think last time I mentioned he of course suffered an injury. That is actually not correct. He actually did not play that LAFC game because he accumulated too many yellow cards coming into that game, and that he was suspended in this one. But the good news is he is going to be back in this game, and I expect that the Timbers defense will be a little bit better in this one. I mean, if you want to have some solution in terms of your defense, then the Quakes is a perfect solution for you. I mean, you know, for my key points, I said that the Quakes need to step up on the attack, but I'm not quite sure who exactly is going to do that. I mean, these last couple of games, they have looked very stale going forward on the attack, and they just have lack of ideas in terms of how to score the goals. While the Timbers, as I said, the defense needs to step up, but, you know, they're going to be facing against a Quakes attack that is not going to to be as good as what they saw against LAFC, and probably one of the weaker attack that they're going to face, and especially the fact that, as I mentioned, they're going to get Chara back. I think they should have no problem in terms of shutting down this Quakes team on the attack. But that being said, does that mean that I think the Timbers could win this game? I don't know. I mean, I'm going to say it's going to be a draw between both of these teams. The Timbers tends to not have a good record against the Quakes whenever they play away, and that, the Quakes, hopefully that shutout that they put on the Galaxy is not just a mirage, and that this defense can do it the second time in the running. But hopefully, as I said, the attack, which has been a little bit stale for these past couple of games, will really step up in this, because I doubt that we're going to be playing in another 0-0 draw against the Portland Timbers. That is not going to happen in this game. So, yeah, I'm going to say it's going to be a draw for the Quakes, and if the Quakes can get a win in this, that will be another confident boost, and certainly a way that they can, of course, start to think about getting back on track and trying to make up some of those points that they dropped ever since Phase 1, of course, began. But there you have it. That is pretty much it for the preview of these 3 games. I know this was a relatively short preview because I only had to preview 3 games, and therefore the review is going to be also pretty short too, heading into tomorrow. But as I said, as we head to Phase 2, where there are going to be 13 games that's going to be taking place when Phase 2, of course, starts, that's when the madness is going to happen. And yeah, I cannot wait to see how I'm going to deal with that kind of madness, and that I'll just say that I'm going to try to watch as much soccer as possible whenever it gets to this point. But at least for tomorrow's game, I can at least relax a little bit, the fact that it's a little bit of a light schedule for the midweek games, and it's kind of a little bit of a return to normalcy, the fact that we usually don't have as much games in the middle of the week as we have seen in the past couple of midweek games, where there was a time where there's 12 games that took place at the single day and on Wednesday, and there was like 6 games that was taking place at the same time. But yeah, there you have it. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and as always, let me know in the comments below about these 3 games and also your prediction of these 3 games. And yeah, I hope to see you guys tomorrow, and tomorrow I am going to do the news of the week video, and then after all these games is going to be finished, I'm going to be doing the review of all 3 of these games.